Hey guys, Aaron Cybertron Zhang here, and today I'm back with another episode of Road to Ranked where I climb the Online Series 13 ladder and provide live commentary as I go. Today we're trying out a really powerful team centered around Encore and Whimsicott that was sent in to me by a player called Poke Replays. They reached number 1 on the ladder very recently with this team, and it's been already kind of a week plus into the season, and so it's definitely more challenging to hit rank number 1 now as compared to maybe like the first 2 days of the season. So first of all, huge congratulations to them. I've linked their Twitter and YouTube channel down in the description below if you want to check them out. As always, I'll do a quick breakdown of the team, but if you want to just skip to the battles, check out the timestamps in the description below. And thank you so much as always for watching. If you enjoyed, please show your support by leaving a like in the video. I'd really appreciate it. Let's talk about the team a little bit. So the general strategy behind this team is fairly straightforward. You want to move before your opponent can move and just attack them and KO them before they can move. And so in order to enable that, Whimsicott with Tailwind is going to be very, very strong as an option here. The whole point is to make sure that your Pokemon, which are already fast, can move before your opponents. And, Tailwind is really common in this format. And so what this Whimsicott does is say, okay, I'm already using some of the fastest Pokemon in the format with Scarf Kyogre, with the Calyrex Shadow Rider, and with Zacian. And so Whimsicott Tailwind just means that even if you have Tailwind on your side, I'll often be moving first. And to me, I think Encore is one of the big difference makers with this set, because we often see something like Trick Room instead of Encore. What Encore allows you to do is, make opposing supportive Pokemon, like opposing Prankster Pokemon, be put in a really tough position. You can also Encore like Trick Room Pokemon so that they reverse Trick Room after setting it up, or Encore something that is just protected, right? And so I think Encore has been a move that I've used in, the majority of games that I've brought the Whimsicott out in, and I bring Whimsicott in most games with this team. And, part of why I wanted to feature this team is because, yeah, it's a ranked number 1 team, and it is incredibly consistent in my opinion, right? It just uses some of the most powerful attackers in the game, but utilizes them in a really smart way, and it has a couple of things that takes it really, across the finish line to make it even stronger, and to me, Encore is one of those. And so, yeah, Whimsicott comes out in most games. The games you won't bring it out in are the ones where you already just naturally outspeed your opponent, and they don't have great speed control, or against, like, hard Trick Room teams where you don't think you'll really be able to take advantage of Encore. But Whimsicott here is designed to just enable the speed of every Pokemon here. So next Pokemon to talk about here is Calyrex Shadow Rider. This is a Life Orb set because Focus Sash is already on the Whimsicott, and so the idea is, if your opponent doesn't have a Dark-type Pokemon, this can be super strong, and of course it's just one of the fastest Pokemon in the format. And what you can do is Dynamax it, Max Phantasm to drop your opponent's defense, thus allowing Zacian and Groudon to deal more damage with their physical attacks. You also have Hyper Beam, which turns into Max Strike, so it gives you another means of speed control. This means that you don't always have to rely on Tailwind from Whimsicott. You can also go for Max Strike on Calyrex or Max Airstream from the Yveltal here. Yveltal is the next Pokemon to talk about here. I believe in the actual in-game version there is Taunt over the Foul Play, but it's a safety goggle set, and so this is really valuable into Amoonguss or Venusaur. Focus Sash Amoonguss can be a really big pain, and so with Goggles Yveltal you can just have it and completely wall Amoonguss. Something like Whimsicott Yveltal makes Amoonguss or Venusaur have a lot of trouble. I haven't really seen Venusaur that much in this format, but it could be kind of annoying thanks to, Spore and, or Sleep Powder, I should say, and it's just, can be really strong to Kyogre, Groudon, and Zacian. And so, yeah, the idea with Yveltal here is you have enough speed investment to outspeed max speed Kyogre and Groudons, and anything that speed creeps that by 1, so 158 puts you in that range. To me, Yveltal is the Pokemon I bring the least with this team, but it's really important in the matchups where you actually want it out in, right? And so, don't forget, like, if you're going up against mirror teams, for example, it can also be valuable because being able to Airstream to boost your Zacian speed can be really critical. I want to talk about Zacian really quickly because this is max speed Zacian. You have just a little bit of HP investment, so that helps against, surviving like opposing Behemoth Blades from Zacian, for example, so you don't just get one shot. And you have close combat here rather than any other attack, and close combat's nice just for more damage. With this team, it's all about dealing as much damage as possible. Something like close combat means you can go with like Calyrex, Zacian, and just like max Phantasm, close combat Dialga, right, for a KO. And so you're looking just to deal more damage rather than something like Sacred Sword. The Zacian here doesn't really mind eating a defense and special defense drop because the idea is to try to KO your opponent before they can even get a chance to hit you. To round out the team, you've got Scarf Kyogre here. This is just very standard, but I think Scarf Kyogre is so good on this team because you already have the speed advantage. You're looking to just, once again, move before your opponent can. And with Kyogre, I don't really like maxing it with this team because I think like Calyrex, Yveltal, Groudon are all really solid max options. And so having an item, is better for when you're not Dynamaxed is really smart. And so that's where Scarf comes in. And finally, you've got Assault Vest Groudon here. Pretty standard Assault Vest Groudon, but the thing to note is that it does have a little bit of speed investment, and so you do outspeed a lot of the other Groudons that are in like the 20 to 40 speed EV range. It's just max attack to maximize your damage output and the rest in HP. So With the Sylvester Groudon, I feel like we often see some really complicated spreads, but this is just short, straightforward, and gets right to the point. And so, yeah, with the moveset, you got Stone Edge and Shadow Claw, and so I really like this set. I think Shadow Claw is really nice because being able to Phantasm opposing Calyrex-S and Lunalas in this format is really nice, and you know, Steel Spike was sometimes seen, especially in Series 12, which was valuable in a Grimmsnarl, but Grimmsnarl is not nearly as common in this format. So, for ways to play with the team, you can lead like Whimsicott, Kyogre. Really, Whimsicott with any restricted is very viable, but I often like Whimsicott, Kyogre to put on early pressure with Zacian and, you know, Calyrex or Groudon as the fourth. You could go like Yveltal Zacian, Yveltal Calyrex, Calyrex Zacian, for example. Part of the strength of this team is that you could lead a combination of almost everything, and it is fairly powerful. So, yeah, there's a reason why this got to rank number 1, so let's get into some battles. Alright, that's a Genesect. That's actually legitimately my first time fighting against Genesect in this format. Maybe even ever? I'm trying to wonder, like, when else have you even fought against Genesect in competitive? Yveltal, Kyogre, Zacian, Tornadus, and Incineroar. Okay. So, every time I see Yveltal, I'm really scared to bring Calyrex Shadow Rider, right? Because a single Sucker Punch will give me a lot of trouble. I'm intrigued by something like Whimsicott plus Kyogre lead, just to threaten with a quick Water Spout. So I think like Tornadus Yveltal is probably the lead I'm most worried about on their end. The problem with bringing Yveltal here is that it's pretty Zacian weak, but it is decent against everything else. Having Encore and Whimsicott means we can give Tornadus some trouble as well if they just click Tailwind with that immediately. I think Tornadus Yveltal is the lead I want to be most aware of. I think I'm actually down for maybe Whimsicott Zacian for that reason, because Zacian just pressures with so much damage onto Yveltal. And in the back, I could go Kyogre and Groudon here. Don't think I hate that. Okay, let's go for that. Basically, the idea here is that Zacian's really speedy for me, right? And so with Whimsicott and Zacian, we put on a lot of speed pressure. We put on a lot of offensive pressure immediately to kick off the game. The one thing I'm really trying to watch out for is their Yveltal Max Airstreaming. Because with Yveltal Max Airstreaming, they can gain the speed advantage should they bring Tornadus. But it's going to be Kyogre and Tornadus. The other thing to watch out for here is actually Choice Scarf Kyogre, I would say. I think I have to tail in with Whimsicott, though. Yeah. We do have Energy Ball, which is kind of nice. I mean, if they're not Scarf, then they have to, like, Dynamax Kyogre. That would work out greatly in my favor. Like, I'm down to just Tailwind. Tailwind and play rough, maybe? Yeah. Okay, Kyogre protects. I am more than okay with that, because the thing is, if Tornadus commits to Tailwind here on turn 1, I mean, they could Icy Wind as well, but if they Icy Wind, I can just Encore them into the Icy Wind. Unless they're Mental Orb. Oh, they're actually going for an attack, yeah. Okay. Yep, there's Icy Wind. That's fine. This is smart, because basically the strategy from my opponent's end was let me Icy Wind turn 1, and then click Tailwind turn 2, so I have the speed advantage. But I have Encore, so if they're not Mental Orb here, they're just going to be stuck into Icy Wind. And if they go for, like, for example, another, like, if they try to Water Spout rather than Dynamaxing here, Play Rough will just do a ton of damage to Kyogre. So the question is whether or not they want to commit a Dynamax. If they don't, this is the beauty of Encore. That's why I could make that play turn 1 super safely, unless they're Mental Orb. Nice. Okay. So we get another Icy Wind off, but Zacian here is still max speed, and we know Kyogre is not Choice Scarfed. So we should just be able to get Play Rough off here. We don't miss. Perfect. Okay. It's not enough for a KO, but that's fine. Does 75%. And they Water Spout. Beautiful. So that grants me a free switch in as well. Okay, excellent. So that is 2 turns of Tailwind down immediately. Tornadus is stuck Icy Winding right now. It's actually Life Orb Kyogre. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, perfect opportunity to just go into Scarf Kyogre right now. And the cool thing is, even with Zacian being at -2 speed, because I have Tailwind up, I actually still just outspeed their team, right? So I don't even have to, like, consider switching out here. They don't really have a Water Spout switch in other than Kyogre, but Kyogre's already out on the field. So I'm happy to just click Water Spout here, and then Behemoth Blade, I think. Water Spout plus Blade should get a KO onto anything that switches in on their end, so I'm down for this. It's the most consistent. They're actually not going to switch. Okay, cool. Yep, get the KO onto Kyogre. Tornadus is down to Focus Sash. This should just be a double knockout. The question now is who I want to Dynamax in this game, because Groudon, I think, is probably the more consistent Dynamax option. But let's say like we want to just try to pick up a quick KO this turn to bring the game to like 3v1. It could be Max Kyogre instead. But I think you can see how good Encore Whimsicott is in this game, right? It basically turned it from, whoa, we're in a really bad spot. Because my opponent's play turn 1 is excellent if I don't have Encore, right? So bring out Yveltal. Love to see Genesect, but it's actually Incineroar. Okay. Seeing Incineroar is definitely interesting here, right? It's just not that common. They could obviously fake out Kyogre now and max Airstream, so this is where Dynamaxing Kyogre is actually fairly interesting, because we can use it to just snipe off Incineroar with the Geyser. But Dynamax Groudon should win decently well against both of these. Okay, I'm down to honestly just Water Spout here and Behemoth Blade onto Yveltal. Like, Incineroar can only click Fake Out onto one slot, right? And unless you're physical Groudon, or sorry, physical Yveltal, Dynamax Groudon should have an excellent time against it. So they're going to go for the max here on Yveltal, which isn't surprising. The thing is, I don't want to rely on regular Groudon in this endgame, because, like, Stone Edge would be my only real means of offense into Yveltal, and then I have to rely on hitting Stone Edge, right? And they actually fake out Zacian. Okay, beautiful. So we just get the Choice Scarf Water Spout off here, and that just KOs Incineroar. Nice. I think part of the reason why they might be hesitant clicking Fake Out onto Kyogre is because you're expecting to Dynamax in that position. So they go for Airstream, but yeah, Yveltal's just too far behind at this point to be able to win 3v1. And that Airstream really doesn't even do too much into Kyogre. What is the item on that then? That did so little, but you're also not a Assault Vest, I think. That's interesting. Either way, all we have to do is just Dynamax Groudon to win this game, so all we have to do is to not throw the game and like switch out Groudon for no reason. So we just want them to pick up a KO, give us a free switching into Groudon. Groudon can Dynamax, and a Rockfall will end the game, most likely. So yeah, I think like if we don't have the Encore in this game, it's completely different, because my opponent's turn 1 lead or turn 1 play is so strong, because turn 2, then they can Tailwind, their Kyogre gets a speed advantage, and then like Water Spout just KOs Zacian because your Life Orb, and then does a ton of damage into Whimsicott. It might actually just be a double KO there. So it went from, if I don't have Encore, I actually kind of just lose this probably off turn 1, to with Encore, I'm in such an advantageous position. So we still don't KO Yveltal, but that's fine. You can see that Yveltal here is just not really doing that much damage. Zacian in Rain is just really well protected against Yveltal, right? Like, you, even if you have Max Flare, can't KO the Zacian. So, yeah. That's going to be a win. I think, yeah, to me, this team is incredibly consistent, right? That's one of the reasons why I wanted to feature it. Series 13 is really chaotic. Some of the strategies might not be super easy to execute. This team is really kind of going back to the basics and just using some of the most powerful Pokemon in the best way possible. And I think the Encore plus Energy Ball plus Protect on Whimsicott, like, it's a great Whimsicott set. And we've used Whimsicott so much already in this format, but we've never tried out Encore. Encore has saved me in literally like 75% of games, and I think it's what takes this team from already a good team to, yeah, like a rank #1 team. So yeah, let's keep things going. Our next match here, and this is just Neo VGC's rank #1 team. So we have featured this team before. It is very good. It's definitely very good. The question is what I want to really lead here. I think like the opposing Charizard scares me a considerable amount, so that's one thing we're going to want to watch out for. Wide Guard on Lunala is a pretty big problem here, but what we can lean into potentially is the Max Phantasm from the Calyrex Shadow Rider to catch them off guard, right? With Life Orb Phantasm, we can kind of dunk on Lunala. The other thing to consider here is the Whimsicott having Trick Room, right? And so they might go the Trick Room route rather than the Tailwind route. Because they have Helping Hand as well, I can't really, like, get as much value out of Encore. So that's one thing to watch out for. Dynamax Groudon here is really good for me, potentially. There's Zacian's faster as well. I don't hate Whimsicott Calyrex Shadow Rider here, honestly, to bait them to try to wide guard if they go Whimsicott Lunala. Because I could just win off that, honestly. And then in the back, Groudon plus... I'm bringing Zacian. I think Scarf Kyogre might be a better pick here. I think all of our 6 Pokemon are actually viable here. And I think they might not bring Lunala because I have Yveltal in Team Preview. But we'll see. I'm not sure if this is the absolute best approach, because like even Dynamax Calyrex can't really nuke Dynamax Charizard in one hit without Helping Hand support, and we don't have Helping Hand here. Go with Whimsicott and Groudon, okay. The original Groudon did not have Shadow Claw, so if they didn't deviate from the original team, what do I want to do turn 1? They could Tailwind Max Quake into Calyrex, right? Trick Room is the main thing I'm worried about personally. Yeah, Trick Room is fairly concerning here. I actually might be forced to Dynamax Calyrex for that reason. But there's no Ghost Resist on the other side, so I don't actually think maxing Calyrex is that bad. Because, like, turn 1, basically I'm worried about Trick Room here. So the idea is if I go for Energy Ball and Phantasm, I guarantee a KO onto Whimsicott and a defense drop on a Groudon, and a Helping Hand Max Quake shouldn't KO Calyrex either. Then the next turn I can Tailwind and get another Phantasm off for Max Guard. And if they Tailwind, fine, like we have faster Pokemon here. But yeah, I think Kyogre over Groudon on the back may have been smarter for me. But I think the thing is I brought the Groudon because I wanted to keep my Dynamax options flexible, right? I wasn't necessarily always going to Dynamax Calyrex to start this game, but given the Whimsicott Groudon lead, I do think I want to commit to it. Another thing to think about is like when we stack defense drops with Calyrex Shadow Rider, if we KO everything around the Groudon, Groudon's Dynamax ends, like both Precipice Blades and Behemoth Blade will just be so valuable, right? So, yeah, if they Tailwind turn 1, that's fine. Calyrex is the fastest Pokemon in this matchup, so if I Tailwind turn 2, I have an extra turn of Tailwind, and my Calyrex will outspeed my opponent's entire team. But Groudon is fairly strong to Calyrex here, and if my opponent changed the moveset and added a Ghost-type attack on a Groudon here, I'd be in a lot of trouble. Okay, they just go for Tailwind, that's fine. Yep, and Max Quake, that's okay with me. I guess the problem is if with this, like, the Whimsicott somehow survives, but the Whimsicott doesn't have any bulk, so I don't think it's surviving. Energy Ball should break Sash, or Phantasm will go off first, but yeah. With no bulk, I'm fairly sure this should still be a KO. Okay, good. Just never know. Okay, so we get a knockout there to start. The Groudon that we have on this team has, I think, like, what, 52 speed EVs? Or something like that, so it should actually outspeed the Groudon as well, which is pretty valuable. Once again, I think having Energy Ball and Whimsicott in this format is so nice, because it means you actually can deal some good damage into opposing Kyogres and Groudons, as well as, you know, Gastron is, I haven't really run into it at all, but if you do run into it, it can be quite nice, right? 'Cause especially with the team with Choice Scarf Kyogre. But I think being able to hit both of the, yeah, Gen 3 legendaries like that is so valuable. Okay, they bring out Zacian, that's fine. So I can go for my own Tailwind now. Tailwind, I think what we should do here is, because like we'll get an extra turn of Tailwind. You know what, I actually don't even hate going for, like, Protect here. And Max Guard, because it stalls out another turn of Tailwind, right? Meaning that, and like, my Dynamax isn't going to be as strong as my opponent's here. So yeah, I actually really like this. It also gives me a potential Encore on a Zacian, although I don't think they're really going to Protect here. Okay. Whimsicott protects. Ooh, Zacian does Protect, so I can Encore that slot. That makes sense. They're probably Quaking to try to get a special defense boost? Oh, Steel Spike for a defense boost. Okay, that's cool. That's nicely done. So the thing is, my opponent does pressure me with the double KO right now, but I have the Dynamax advantage by a pretty wide margin here. I also have a Life Orb Phantasm onto their Zacian slot, so I could Encore here, but I think it's better to just set up Tailwind and go for Phantasm. I think we do such minuscule damage to Groudon anyway. Could be worth considering though, because then if both my Pokemon faint, the Zacian is just in Precipice Blade's KO range. Yeah, actually, like, I think because after a defense drop, Zacian just gets one-shot by either my Zacian or Groudon, it's better to target their Groudon here. I guess the main consideration is if I targeted their Zacian with Calyrex, whether or not that's enough for a one-hit KO, but I wouldn't expect it to be enough. Yeah, that's not bad damage. The thing is, we're looking to just put Groudon in a range where I can get a one-hit KO onto it, but nice decision to not target my Calyrex last turn. I could have gotten more value there. Okay, so Whimsicott's gonna faint here. Yep. You would think they go for another Quake, which is fine by me. That's where not having Kyogre here is maybe better. Yep. Like, if we had Scarf Kyogre here, this endgame would actually be kind of weird, because they boosted their special defense so much. So, the reality of the situation is, I've staggered Tailwind pretty considerably. I get a free switch into my Zacian. I have 3 full turns of Dynamax, but the only problem here is that, like, I have to max, you know, one Pokemon. Like, I can't max Zacian, right? So I have to max Groudon. Which is okay, I think, but... Okay... We shouldn't faint a Behemoth Blade on their Zacian, so... I think here I can pressure with Blade onto their Groudon, right? They're at -1 defense. I should just max my Groudon here, personally, right? Three turns of Tailwind, you have 1. I'm just worried about Behemoth Blade not KOing the Groudon. Also, I said I have Dynamax, they don't. I'm kidding. Obviously, I max with Calyrex. I'm just so unused to doing that. It's just funny, I just processed that. Okay, I'm gonna go for Precipice Blades here and Blade onto the Groudon slot, because Groudon is Assault Vested here, so it can't protect. They switch out, that's fine. Yep, into Kyogre, that's fine. I think because we have the Tailwind advantage after this turn, I should be in a fairly good spot unless I get crit by their Zacian. Zacian protects, which is even better for us. I'm always doubling up on a Groudon there. It's so funny. I was like, oh, I have the Dynamax advantage. Yeah, it's just like, I'm not very used to Dynamaxing Calyrex Shadow Rider. Okay, it's decent damage on a Kyogre there. Kyogre actually took that a little bit better than I expected, honestly, but that's fine. Just trying to see if I can win this game without relying on, like, hitting every Precipice Blades, but I'm not sure we can actually do that. Kyogre feints, beautiful. Tailwind peters out. They get the free switch in back into Groudon. The thing is, I could, like, Behemoth Blade and Fire Punch their Zacian right now. Guarantee the KO there. I think I'd rather just Blade into the Groudon slot and Precipice Blades. Maybe even Fire Punch, to be honest, to guarantee the KO onto it. Yeah, we know it's Assault Vest Groudon, and a Behemoth Blade from their end shouldn't KO either of my Pokemon, and I have the faster Zacian, so I'm down to do this. I don't want to rely on, like, missing a Fire Punch. They could go for a double Protect on Zacian, but they don't. Okay, that's fine. Because if we were to miss, like, Precipice Blades into Groudon here, it'd be absolutely devastating, where Fire Punch just guarantees us the KO. Beautiful. Okay, now it's 2v1. They're going to get a Blade off here. The Zacian on the opposing end does have Quick Attack, so we have to worry about a Quick Attack endgame, potentially. But they target Groudon. Beautiful. That doesn't do that much. Okay, they should probably just Protect here, stall out the last turn of Tailwind. But then I have faster Zacian, right? And 2 Behemoth Blades will just KO them. So that's why I wanted to, like, aggressively keep doubling up, and they actually just end up forfeiting. So, yeah. I think ultimately here, yeah, like, the Steel Spike on their end was actually quite nice to get a defense boost, because that changed how I could approach playing against their Zacian, but Calyrex just being faster than everything, and the opposing team not having any ghost resistances or immunities made things a lot easier for us, I would say. And being able to stagger Tailwind was, I think, what ultimately won us this game. You know, when you're using Tailwind, you always want to think about, like, what value you get out of it, and in this game, like, on turn 1, I didn't go for it because I was worried about Whimsicott clicking Trick Room, so I was like, okay, I just want to make sure you don't set up Trick Room and I eliminate Whimsicott immediately, and then on turn 2, it's like, well, there's no need to Tailwind here immediately, right? So we got 2 extra turns of Tailwind relative to our opponent, and that was really critical. I think we did have a, you know, I would say the matchup was more in our favor since we have Calyrex, which is just the fastest Pokemon in the matchup, and they don't really have much to deal with Calyrex in general, but the thing is, I don't love Dynamaxing in this matchup, but I felt kind of forced to because otherwise I would just faint to Max Quake, and I don't think Dynamax Groudon is enough to win me the game. And I need to like use Dynamax Calyrex defensively to try to style out Groudon's Dynamax. But in the end, we were in a position where, yeah, just Precipice Blades plus Zacian was so strong into anything they can have there in the end game. So yeah, let's look for one final one. Okay, last one here, and we have a mirror match. Oh boy, okay. Oh, mirror matches here, I think, really dicey. Because of potential, like, speed ties with Whimsicott with Encore. So what do we want to do? Like, Yveltal could give me a speed advantage via Max Airstream. I think we both probably drop Calyrex here. Dynamax Groudon's really strong. I want to lead Whimsicott. Basically, I think like Yveltal and Zacian with Groudon in the back could be good, or just Kyogre. What if I just lead Kyogre for a quick Water Spout? The thing is, in a mirror match, like, you want to gain every advantage you can get, and speed is what I think is really critical here, so I'm thinking, like, Whimsicott, Yveltal, Zacian, Kyogre. Like, just... I could bring Calyrex, actually. But it's so bad into Yveltal. I think Dynamax Groudon could also work here, but, yeah. Hey, if there's any team we lose to and it's the same team we're using, I'm okay with that. This is a really consistent team, and I think, seeing how the mirror plays out will be interesting, because, you know, like... Mirrors can be really interesting. The dynamic of the teams we're using is just so powerful, and, like, you know, Encore is a pretty big deal. Okay, we are just gonna both lead Whimsicott Yveltal. So we have the exact same idea here. Yep. Makes sense, makes sense. I don't think we can get fancy with Whimsicott. I could Energy Ball Airstream, but we might just have the exact same idea and both do that. I'm down for Energy Ball Airstream, though. Like, at worst, we just end up making the exact same play, and that's okay with me. They're gonna max, yep. And at best, they click Tailwind turn 1, so then I just get an extra turn of Tailwind relative to our opponent. Which would be pretty huge here in this matchup. Especially because the Yveltal would get a speed boost as well. I guess the problem, though, is that they would get a free switch in into, say, something like the Zacian immediately if, with me making this play. I also don't know if I needed to Dynamax Yveltal here. I could have maybe got an extra turn out of it, but I think there's a very good chance we just brought the same 4 Pokemon. It'd be hilarious if we both just traded Energy Ball Airstream turn 1, because then it kind of devolves into madness, I would say. Because then it's, whoever Yveltal, like, goes with the Airstream first, the subsequent turn would have such a major advantage. But yeah, they're gonna click Tailwind. So I'll have an extra turn of Tailwind relative to my opponent in this game, but they will get a free switch in first. They did max Airstream Yveltal, though. Okay, that makes sense. You know, I actually think that's really smart. I think my opponent's saying, well, you have Whimsicott. What is Whimsicott going to do into Yveltal and Zacian? The answer is really not very much. So I'll have an extra turn of Tailwind, but I'm also stuck on the field with Whimsicott. So I actually really like how my opponent played turn 1. Like, maybe the better approach is leave the Whimsicott on the field and just, like, use it to stall out the opposing speed control. Like, now I can Tailwind, they should bring out Zacian, and they can just max Airstream the Whimsicott plus Behemoth Blade onto something, right? And the key thing is they get a speed boost onto their Zacian first, so maybe this is actually just not good. Unless for some reason they didn't bring Zacian out. That would make things a lot easier, but Zacian is the perfect Pokemon to switch into for my opponent right now. Yeah, so what lessons have we learned so far? Maybe don't just knock out Whimsicott for free. We want them to KO us. We didn't even really need to Tailwind there, but they bring out Kyogre. Ooh, okay. That is interesting. That makes me think they just straight up didn't bring Zacian. Okay, so I can now Tailwind myself. Oh, this is where the dynamic between Kyogre and Yveltal is a pretty huge... Or sorry, Yveltal's, like our respective Yveltals is a pretty big deal. Because if they Airstream first and then get a Water Spout off, that would be really bad. But if I end up winning the speed tie and just attacking Kyogre before it can move, that's a huge deal. Either way, though, yeah, I'm not sure they actually brought the... And we do Airstream first, which is huge. I'm not sure they brought the Zacian, because if you had Zacian, I think you'd always just bring it out in that position. I Airstreamed there, by the way, because I'm just trying to maintain the speed advantage as much as possible right now. Yep, so we're just trading Airstreams. Yep, there's the target on a Whimsicott. I mean, I'd be okay with them getting a KO and then giving me a free switch in here. Okay, so now we're facing Choice Scarf Kyogre at +1 speed in Tail, and the speed dynamic here is interesting. There's just so much going on, but they actually click Thunder. Okay. Hopefully no Para. Para would be really bad. Oh, I spoke it into existence. Ah, that's awful. That really blows. Okay. It's okay. We just gotta play around it, right? Going to... I mean, what are we at? +2 speed? Okay, so I'm gonna Energy Ball into the Kyogre slot. I don't want Yveltal on the field anymore because I got paired with it, so I'm down to just like... I don't even mind losing both Pokemon here. Okay, we do get Energy Ball off. I don't think this is gonna KO though. Ah, that was really close. We go for another Thunder. We actually should survive this. We do with 1 HP. Maybe they doubled up onto Yveltal though. Fine by me. Okay. It's a free switch into my Kyogre now. Yeah, that Para stings a little bit, but it's okay. I could have max guarded there, but I didn't really want to. I think I'm okay just going to Zacian here. What's their last one though? Did they bring Groudon? That could be the case. Okay. Bring out Zacian. Like, I don't want to bring out Kyogre because if their last one is Groudon, my Kyogre will just win pretty hard against it, right? I mean, Kyogre in general is actually just really strong against their endgame. So last one of Tailwind on their end. They have so many speed boosts, though. The thing is, like, yeah, I mean, I can set up another Tailwind here, right? Double Protect into Tailwind. Well, actually, yeah, I have 2 turns. +2 speed. Okay, actually, yeah, Double Protect here is fine. Because we know the Kyogre is choiced. So their Tailwind ends, and then the next turn I can target that slot with fairly good confidence. And then we obviously have Play Rough into Yveltal as well, right? So, just keeping track of the speed here is tripping me up a little bit. Thunder into Zacian. Dark Pulse into Zacian, yep. Makes sense. Zacian tries to attack there, you might just KO. You also have a flinch chance. So +2 speed and Tailwind. You're at +2 speed, but you don't have Tailwind. So Energy Ball and a Kyogre should always be safe. Yveltal's at +3, so it should still outspeed Zacian, but I think Energy Ball and a Kyogre, and then just play rough into Yveltal is fine here, because play rough will just KO Yveltal. Yveltal protects, that's fine. We should KO Kyogre, which means that I can also set up another set of Tailwind with Zacian. Okay. Kyogre faints. Now I'm really curious, because so far we've brought the same 3 Pokemon, but what's their final one? The good thing is I have Choice Scarf Kyogre in the back, which should be really good into anything that my opponent brought here. So I'm feeling decently strong about our position. It is Zacian. That's really interesting to me. I think my opponent would have been in a much better position if they just brought Zacian first over Kyogre, honestly. But I'll gladly take it here. Okay, so now I can Tailwind. I think Tailwind and play rough here is fine. The only thing I lose to is a Dark Pulse flinch onto Zacian, maybe. Or a play rough miss. But the idea is to one-shot Yveltal here, and then Whimsicott Zacian can beat their Zacian. Sorry, Whimsicott Kyogre can beat their Zacian. So, yeah, I'm fine with this. I've managed to get another set of Tailwind up in this game. Oh, we are faster than Yveltal, actually. Okay, that's huge. I wasn't sure about that. Speed gets a little bit funky when you're dealing with, like, +3. Like, yeah, it's... but that's something you should be able to calculate off the top of my head, so... I mean, that just makes things easier for me. It just ensures the win here, because I shouldn't faint here unless I get crit. Excellent. Yeah, I think my opponent should have just brought Zacian out, because it was in a really good spot against Yveltal, right? Whereas with Kyogre, they were forced to commit Choice Scarf into Thunder. I don't know. But now I can Encore you, because then you're stuck into Behemoth Blade, which Kyogre in the back doesn't take that much damage from. Protect here will surely seal up their doom. But yeah, with the 3v1 here, there was really never much my opponent could do. So it was interesting, right? Because we did bring the same 4 Pokemon. In the end, the speed ties actually... Did they matter? The one turn against Kyogre, I mean, I attacked first, but yeah, no, they didn't click Water Spout in that position, so it actually didn't end up mattering. Because they would have gotten into Thunder off, it would have been the same amount of damage. We would have ended the turn with the same speed anyway. So, we Encore, we Blade. And you can see how good Encore is on Whimsicott here, right? I really think it's kind of been the MVP move, honestly. So Blade goes off into Zacian. They're stuck protecting. So, yeah, Encore is the difference maker here. But this mirror was interesting. In the end, like, yeah, it didn't feel like the speed ties actually really mattered. We actually chose very different approaches to this game with the same 4 Pokemon, right? They prioritized setting up Tailwind in the early game. They brought Scarf Kyogre out first over Zacian, whereas I wanted to eliminate Whimsicott as quickly as possible. I got a second set of Tailwind up in this game, and I brought Zacian first over the Kyogre. So, even when you use the exact same Pokemon in the exact same team, it can play out in completely different manners, and we both went with the right approach with the same 4 Pokemon. I think this is probably just the best 4. I don't know, Calyrex adds a ton of variance into the matchup. You don't feel confident with it into Yveltal. Although it could Max Strike, which is interesting, but I don't know. You just faint to a Max Darkness from Yveltal, so I don't think that's worth it. And then, yeah. Groudon is interesting, but if you bring Groudon, you just lose the speed advantage pretty heavily, and Groudon kind of gets dunked on by combos of like Max Airstream plus Behemoth Blade from Zacian, or Max Darkness plus Water Spout from Kyogre, for example. So I think the 4 that both of us brought were probably the best, but I'm not sure I took the absolute best approach. It ended up working out okay, but if my opponent brought Zacian first over Kyogre, this game would have been way more challenging in my opinion. Because the thing is, by KOing Whimsicott, they could have Airstream to give Zacian a speed boost, so then I'd be facing against a +1 speed Zacian into Tailwind, and even if I were to stagger Tailwind by a turn, their Zacian can just outspeed and overwhelm me. So I don't actually love the approach I took in this game, but my opponent bringing Kyogre first over Zacian gave me a pretty huge advantage that I probably shouldn't have had in this game. So yeah. Either way, I hope you can see the power of Encore Whimsicott and just the strength of this ranked #1 team. So, thank you so much as always for watching. Leave a like if you enjoyed. Don't forget to check out the team, and I'll see you all next time. Alright, peace.